The world is standing on the edge of something unseen, something deeply spiritual yet profoundly real. You can feel it in the atmosphere, in the tension between nations, in the restlessness of people's hearts. There is a silent stirring across the earth, an awakening that many cannot explain, but everyone can sense. This is not coincidence. This is not random. It's the divine alarm clock of heaven ringing louder than ever before, shaking souls out of their comfort zones and calling them to remember why they were created in the first place. Humanity has fallen into a deep sleep, not a physical one, but a spiritual one. We scroll endlessly, work tirelessly, chase endlessly, yet live thoughtlessly. We fill our lives with noise, distraction, and illusion, all while the inner voice of truth whispers, "Wake up, time is running out." This is not the time to be casual about life, faith, or purpose. This is the hour when awareness becomes everything. The world may look the same on the surface, but in the unseen realm, a spiritual countdown has begun. You can almost feel the pulse of eternity pressing against time, reminding us that every choice now carries eternal weight. There are seasons in life when God moves quietly, allowing us to build, grow, and learn. But there comes a moment, the final hour, when He speaks with urgency. His message is not wrapped in thunder or lightning. It is a stirring in the heart that refuses to be ignored. You feel it when you wake up in the morning and question, "Is this all there is?" You sense it when success doesn't satisfy you anymore, when you achieve everything you once dreamed of yet feel emptier than before. That emptiness is not failure. It is divine invitation. It is God pulling back the curtain on everything temporary, showing you that fulfillment can never come from the outside world. It must be found within. The final hour is not about panic. It is about perspective. It is the moment when your soul recognizes that life is not measured in years, but in meaning, not in possessions, but in purpose. For generations, humanity has been lulled into complacency. We have mistaken comfort for peace and distraction for joy. We have built monuments to ourselves while neglecting the maker of our souls. But there comes a point when even the most distracted heart begins to feel the void. The noise of the world cannot drown out the call of eternity. Every storm, every disappointment, every loss we face is not punishment, it's preparation. It's God shaking the foundations of false security so that we might awaken to truth. The message of this hour is not for the religious or the righteous alone. It's for the restless, the weary, the searching, the broken. It's for the one who has tried everything and still feels incomplete. It's the realization that the final hour is not something to fear, but something to embrace, because it means the veil is thinning between heaven and earth, and the eternal is reaching out to awaken the mortal. This awakening is not external, it begins inside. It starts with the quiet decision to live consciously, to no longer drift through life reacting to circumstances, but to rise each day with awareness. The world is full of people who exist but do not live, who hear but do not listen, who see but do not perceive. The final message of awakening is a divine reminder that you are more than flesh and bone. You are a soul on assignment. You were born with a reason, a divine blueprint encoded in your very being. Every experience, every challenge, every moment of pain was designed to push you closer to awareness. To awaken is to remember. To remember who you are, whose you are, and why you were placed here at this specific time in history. The urgency of this hour is not about fear of the end, but faith in a new beginning. God is calling humanity to rise from spiritual slumber, to see beyond the temporary glitter of the world and embrace the eternal gold of truth. He is whispering to every heart, don't waste your life chasing what fades. He is urging us to open our eyes, to look at the world not as it appears, but as it truly is, a battlefield of choices between light and darkness, truth and deception, awakening and apathy. The greatest tragedy of life is not death, it is to die without ever having lived awake. The final hour is the invitation to wake up, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, while there is still light, while there is still time, while the voice of eternity is still calling your name. There comes a moment in every life when the noise around you begins to fade, and all that remains is the voice within, quiet, persistent, unrelenting. It is the sound of truth echoing in the corridors of your soul, asking you to look into the mirror of who you truly are. For generations, humanity has become expert at hiding behind masks, roles, and labels. We have learned to smile when we are breaking, to appear strong when we are empty, and to project confidence while silently wrestling with doubt. But in this final hour, God is holding up a divine mirror, asking each of us to confront the reflection we have avoided for too long. It's not the mirror of vanity or appearance, it's the mirror of the soul, the one that cannot lie, cannot flatter, and cannot be deceived. In that reflection, we see the truth we have buried beneath distractions, fears, and justifications. When God asks humanity to look inward, He is not seeking perfection but honesty. The greatest transformation begins with truth, and truth is rarely comfortable. We spend our lives building identities based on what we want the world to believe, yet the Creator is not impressed by appearances, He looks at the heart. In this moment of divine confrontation, we begin to realize how far we've drifted from who we were meant to be. We've chased validation instead of vision, comfort instead of calling, and in doing so, we've silenced the quiet voice of our own spirit. The mirror of the soul exposes that disconnect. It shows us the gap between what we claim to believe and how we truly live. That realization is painful, but it is also sacred, because awareness is the first step to redemption. Most people spend their lives avoiding that mirror. They fill their days with noise and movement, so they never have to face themselves in stillness. But silence has a way of stripping away illusions. When you sit alone and listen deeply, you begin to hear the questions you've been avoiding. Who am I when no one is watching? What am I becoming? Have I honored the purpose for which I was born? These questions are not meant to condemn but to awaken. God's final message to humanity is a call to self-examination, to face not the version of yourself you present to the world, but the one you meet in the dark when the masks come off. That encounter can shake you, but it can also free you, because truth, though painful, is the beginning of power. The mirror also reveals the ways we've allowed the world to define us. We've been told that success equals worth, that possessions equal value, that popularity equals purpose. And so we chase shadows, thinking we are chasing light. We shape our identity around approval, forgetting that the Creator already approved us long before anyone else knew our name. The mirror breaks those illusions. It shows that the emptiness we feel is not failure, it's a signal that we've built our lives on things that cannot satisfy the soul. When you truly look within, you begin to realize that the void isn't a curse, it's an invitation. It's God calling you back to authenticity, to truth, to the divine image buried beneath the layers of pretense. This internal confrontation is not an act of judgment but of mercy. To see yourself clearly is to receive an opportunity for transformation. Every time the mirror reveals a flaw, pride, resentment, fear, doubt, it is not to shame you, but to show you where healing is needed. The human soul is not broken beyond repair. It's merely covered by layers of illusion. The divine mirror helps us peel those layers away, piece by piece, until what remains is pure, radiant, and real. It is only when we confront ourselves with honesty that we can truly change. As long as we live in denial, the cycles of emptiness continue. But when we face truth head on, we reclaim the power to rewrite the story of our lives. Every generation receives a message from heaven, but not everyone listens. Some hear it and run, afraid of what they might discover. Yet those who are brave enough to stand before the mirror will experience a rebirth of the soul. This is not about religion, it's about relationship with the divine, with truth, with oneself. The mirror is not there to destroy you, but to remind you that within every shadow lies the potential for light. It is in the stillness of honest reflection that you begin to remember your true design, not the version that society shaped, but the one God imagined. And when that awareness dawns upon your soul, you no longer fear the truth, you welcome it, because you realize it was never there to wound you, but to wake you. Every human being is a carrier of energy, a living conduit of light or darkness, depending on what we choose to align ourselves with. Life is not happening to us by chance. It is responding to the frequency we emit. Every thought, every word, every emotion releases a vibration into the atmosphere, creating a reality that mirrors what we believe within. This is the divine law of alignment. What we harmonize with, we attract. When we choose fear, life echoes back confusion and scarcity. When we choose faith, life begins to unfold with clarity and abundance. The final message for humanity is not a demand to follow rituals, but an awakening to resonance, to understand that the universe, created by divine intelligence, is constantly aligning itself with the energy of our inner state. God's voice is not distant thunder, it's the quiet vibration that meets you in the center of your being when you choose truth over illusion. The chaos in the world is not random, it is a reflection of the inner turmoil that has taken root within human hearts. We have allowed anger to become normal, fear to become culture, and greed to become ambition. As we've drifted from divine alignment, the world has followed, echoing our imbalance in the form of wars, divisions, and suffering. The universe operates on spiritual law, not the laws written by human hands, but those woven into the very fabric of creation. When humanity moves out of harmony with these laws, the result is disorder, just as an instrument out of tune produces noise instead of music. The message of the final hour is simple but profound. Real change begins not in governments or systems, but within the vibration of the individual soul. Every time a person chooses peace over anger, forgiveness over revenge, love over judgment, they realign not only themselves, but a piece of the world around them. Alignment with light is not about perfection, it is about intention. It is the conscious decision to elevate your energy every day to feed your spirit with truth instead of lies, hope instead of despair, gratitude instead of complaint. The darkness that surrounds humanity is not more powerful than the light within us. It only seems that way because too many have forgotten who they are. We were created as extensions of divine intelligence, mirrors of eternal goodness. Yet we have allowed ourselves to live beneath that calling. The law of alignment reminds us that God does not force transformation, He invites it through choice. Each thought is a seed, and each seed produces fruit according to its kind. If we plant bitterness, we will harvest pain. If we plant love, we will reap peace. The spiritual energy you carry is not a secret, it broadcasts itself everywhere you go. People feel it when you enter a room. The universe responds to it in every opportunity or obstacle that comes your way. The moment you begin to consciously align with divine truth, everything shifts. The situations that once drained you begin to lose their power. The voices that once intimidated you no longer control your peace. The same world, the same challenges, but a completely different vibration. This is the mystery of divine alignment. God's energy is always available, but it cannot flow through a vessel filled with negativity and doubt. To align with light means to empty yourself of everything that resists it: unforgiveness, resentment, fear, and ego. These are heavy frequencies, and as long as they dwell within, your spirit cannot rise. But when you choose to release them, you rise into a higher plane of consciousness where grace flows effortlessly and peace becomes your natural state. When you begin to walk in alignment, you no longer fight against life, you flow with it. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That simple shift moves you from resistance to revelation. You begin to see divine order in what once looked like chaos. Even your struggles take on new meaning because you realize they were never sent to destroy you, they were sent to recalibrate you. The challenges of life are not punishments, but invitations to adjust your frequency. Every trial is a test of alignment, asking whether you will react with fear or respond with faith. The more you choose light, the more the darkness loses its grip. The divine law of alignment is not mystical theory. It is the invisible structure that governs all creation. Just as a compass always points north, the soul always points toward truth, unless it is clouded by confusion and pain. The world is full of people who are chasing peace externally while ignoring the dissonance within. But peace is not found in a place, it is found in alignment. When the mind, heart, and spirit vibrate in harmony with divine purpose, every external circumstance begins to mirror that inner peace. The world outside begins to reflect the world within. That is why this final message is not a cry of judgment, but a call to realignment. The energy you carry is your contribution to creation itself. To choose light is not a moral act, it is a creative one. It means participating in the ongoing symphony of divine order that sustains all existence. For too long, humanity has measured the value of life by the weight of possessions, by the size of achievements, and by the applause of others. We have been taught that success is defined by accumulation, more wealth, more recognition, more influence, and yet, despite having more than any generation before us, we are emptier than ever. There is a quiet truth rising in this final hour, a whisper that cuts through the illusion of material success, reminding us that what we own will fade, but what we become will echo through eternity. We have built empires of possessions while starving our souls of purpose. We have learned to chase what glitters but forgotten how to value what glows from within. God's message to humanity is not one of deprivation but of redirection. He is not asking us to give up what we have but to remember why we have it, to use every resource, every gift, every moment for something greater than personal comfort. The reversal of priorities is one of the greatest awakenings a human soul can experience. When a person realizes that life is not about what they hold in their hands, but about what they release from their heart, transformation begins. We live in a world that glorifies possession, but the divine law celebrates purpose. Every person is born with an assignment, a thread of divine intention woven into the fabric of time. The tragedy of modern life is that most people die rich in things but poor in meaning. They climb ladders leaning against the wrong walls, only to reach the top and find emptiness waiting there. The final hour invites us to descend from those walls, to stop striving for what fades, and to return to what truly fulfills purpose, compassion, connection, and service. The true wealth of a soul is not found in what it keeps, but in what it gives. Possession without purpose leads to frustration. When your only goal is to accumulate, there is no point of satisfaction, because the appetite for more never ends. You can fill your home, your account, your calendar, yet still feel hollow inside. That is because fulfillment is a spiritual experience, not a material one. Purpose brings peace, while possession without direction breeds anxiety. Humanity's obsession with gain has blinded us to the divine design of giving. We were never meant to be containers of blessings, but conduits of them. When you shift your focus from holding to sharing, from taking to serving, life begins to flow differently. What you give returns multiplied, not because of luck, but because of divine law. The universe mirrors the energy of your intent, and when your intent is to serve rather than to store, abundance finds you naturally. This reversal of priorities is not about abandoning ambition. It's about redefining it. True ambition is not about climbing above others, but about lifting others as you climb. It's about using influence as an instrument of impact. You can still dream, build, create, and succeed, but when your motive aligns with higher purpose, success becomes sacred. It becomes more than personal gain. It becomes divine partnership. Every invention, every creation, every act of generosity becomes an offering to something eternal. The world does not need more people chasing fame. It needs more people living with flame, the inner fire of purpose that illuminates and inspires. When you live from that fire, everything changes. Your work becomes worship. Your daily routines become opportunities to serve. Even the smallest acts, a kind word, a silent prayer, a moment of patience, become threads in the tapestry of divine purpose. The message of this hour is clear. Life is not about possession, but progression, not about how much you have, but about how much you evolve. The world teaches us to measure success by what we can count, but heaven measures it by what cannot be counted: peace, integrity, compassion, love. Every material possession will one day slip through your hands, but the legacy of who you were will remain. That legacy is not written in money or titles, but in moments of impact, the lives you touched, the hearts you healed, the hope you gave when others had none. When you begin to prioritize purpose over possession, something awakens within you. The constant hunger for more fades, replaced by a quiet satisfaction that cannot be explained but can always be felt. You realize that every day is an opportunity to create meaning, that every blessing you hold is a tool for transformation. Humanity's redemption will not come through wealth, power, or progress. It will come through purpose. It will come when people remember that they were created not to consume endlessly, but to contribute eternally. The true measure of life is not how high you climbed, but how deeply you loved, how faithfully you served, and how courageously you lived the truth planted in your soul. This is the divine reversal, when the heart becomes richer than the hand, when giving becomes greater than gaining, and when living for others becomes the highest form of living. In a world that never stops talking, it has become almost impossible to hear the voice that truly matters. Humanity is surrounded by endless sound, the hum of technology, the constant buzz of opinions, the relentless noise of ambition. We scroll through screens, chase deadlines, and fill every quiet space with distraction, as if silence itself were something to be feared. But the divine message for this final hour is not found in the thunder of activity. It is hidden in stillness. God's voice does not compete with the chaos. It waits patiently in the quiet places of the heart, whispering to those who are willing to pause, listen, and be still. The greatest revelations in life are not discovered in movement, but in moments of stillness, where the soul is finally calm enough to hear what heaven has been saying all along. Stillness is not the absence of action, it is the presence of awareness. It is that sacred pause where time seems to stand still and your spirit reconnects with divine intelligence. In that still space, clarity is born. It is there that confusion dissolves, that wounds begin to heal, and that fear loses its grip. Most people rush through life trying to find answers, not realizing that the answers are already within them. They simply cannot be heard through the noise. The world teaches us to keep moving, to stay busy, to never stop, as if productivity equals worth. But true wisdom flows only to those who know how to be quiet. When you learn to still your mind and open your heart, you begin to perceive things that others overlook. You start to notice divine patterns, synchronicities, and gentle nudges that guide you toward your higher purpose. The art of stillness is a forgotten discipline in the modern world. We have become addicted to motion, believing that doing more will lead to being more. Yet, in the eyes of the divine, stillness is strength. It is the place where faith matures and inner power is refined. When you are still, you are not empty, you are aligning with eternity. It is in that stillness that inspiration flows like a river. Many of the greatest breakthroughs in history, spiritual, creative, and intellectual, were birthed in solitude, when someone dared to sit quietly with their thoughts and listen to something higher than themselves. The universe speaks in vibrations too gentle for the hurried mind to hear. God does not shout over the noise of the world. He whispers to the soul that has learned to rest. When life becomes overwhelming, the natural instinct is to do more, fix more, think more, control more. But the divine law operates in the opposite way. The more you let go, the more things begin to fall into place. The power of stillness lies in surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of trust. It is the decision to stop striving and start allowing. When you sit in silence and breathe deeply, you declare to the universe that you are no longer a slave to chaos. You choose peace, and in that choice, divine order begins to unfold. The still mind becomes a magnet for clarity, wisdom, and insight. It is only when the waters of the soul become calm that they can reflect the light of truth. Stillness also reveals what busyness hides. It exposes the parts of ourselves we've buried under the weight of distraction, the pain we ignored, the dreams we postponed, the emotions we numbed. When you slow down, those inner truths begin to surface. And while that can feel uncomfortable, it is also the beginning of healing. God does not reveal what is broken to shame you. He reveals it so He can restore you. Stillness gives you the courage to face yourself with honesty, to sit with your emotions instead of running from them, and to hear the whisper of grace that says you are not alone in your struggle. In that silence, you rediscover your worth not based on what you achieve, but on who you are. To hear the voice beyond the noise requires patience. It requires learning to value the unseen over the visible, the eternal over the temporary. The world is constantly demanding your attention, but your soul is quietly asking for your presence. There is a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing happens with the ears, but listening happens with the heart. When you begin to listen with your heart, the divine language becomes clear. It speaks in peace, in intuition, in inner knowing. Sometimes the silence of God is not absence but instruction. It is not that He is not speaking. It is that He is teaching you to listen differently, to move from panic to patience, from control to trust. Stillness is the birthplace of strength. It is where warriors of faith are trained, where visionaries are awakened, and where ordinary people encounter extraordinary guidance. When you embrace silence, you no longer fear it. You begin to crave it because you realize it is not emptiness, it is connection. It is the meeting place between heaven and earth, between creation and creator. It is in that quiet space that miracles begin, not because something outside changes, but because something within you does. The mind settles, the heart opens, and divine wisdom fills the space that noise once occupied. There comes a sacred moment in every soul's journey when words no longer suffice, when understanding alone is not enough, and the call from heaven becomes clear, not to just hear the message, but to become it. The final call is not a sound that echoes through the air, it is a vibration that resonates within the spirit. It's not a sermon, not a prophecy from distant clouds, but a personal awakening that whispers, "Now is the time." Humanity has long waited for divine intervention, for miracles to descend from the heavens, for a voice to thunder through the skies, but the truth is far more intimate. The divine is speaking through us. We are not only receivers of the message, we are the message itself. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every step taken in faith is heaven speaking through human form. The final hour is not about watching for signs in the sky, but recognizing the signs already alive within your soul. To become the message means to live with intention, to embody divine truth so deeply that it radiates through every word and every action. It means realizing that you are not separate from God's plan, you are part of its expression. The Creator's voice moves through human compassion, through the courage to love when it's easier to hate, through the humility to serve when the world demands self-interest. When you choose to live as the message, your life becomes a sermon that no words could ever preach. People begin to feel your energy before they hear your voice. They sense peace when you walk into a room because you carry something higher, the resonance of divine alignment. Becoming the message is not about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about living in such a way that your very presence reminds others of what's possible when a human soul awakens. The final call is not to do more, but to be more, to be light in a dark world, to be calm in a storm, to be faith in the face of fear. The divine does not need more eloquent speakers. It needs more illuminated lives. It needs people who live truth quietly, powerfully, and consistently. When you embody the message, your existence becomes a bridge between heaven and earth. You stop waiting for signs because you realize you are one. You stop searching for purpose because you recognize that living consciously is purpose. Every smile, every prayer, every choice that stems from love becomes a ripple of divine intention spreading through the human experience. This is how heaven speaks, not through thunder, but through the heartbeat of awakened souls who choose to live with love. To become the message also means to let go of the illusion that you are powerless. Many wait for divine deliverance, unaware that deliverance flows through them. You were not placed here merely to survive, but to transform, to carry light into places where it has been forgotten. Every challenge you have faced, every tear you have shed, has prepared you for this, not to break you, but to refine you. The message of God is not spoken through those who avoid pain, but through those who rise above it with grace. Your wounds become your testimony, your perseverance becomes your sermon, and your healing becomes proof that divine power still moves through human vessels. When you live like this, your life becomes evidence of eternity's touch in a temporary world. There is a higher vibration that flows through those who understand this truth. They walk differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. They no longer fear the unknown because they know who walks with them. Their joy does not depend on circumstances. It flows from connection. Their peace cannot be stolen because it is rooted in something unshakable. To live as the message is to become untouchable by fear, because you are anchored in love. You become a vessel through which divine energy moves effortlessly, blessing everyone you encounter. You stop striving for attention because you realize your light doesn't need to shout, it simply shines. Humanity has looked outward for salvation for too long, yet the divine strategy has always been inward. God does not send angels to fix what he has already empowered his people to change. The final message is not about waiting for someone else to act. It is about realizing that you were chosen to act. You were created to be a reflection of the divine in human form, to bring heaven's reality into the world through your choices, your presence, your love. The world doesn't need more messages written on paper. It needs messages written on hearts. It needs people whose lives speak louder than sermons, whose compassion heals more deeply than words, whose courage awakens more souls than any speech could. To become the message is to live as a reminder that light still exists, that hope still breathes, that God is still moving through humanity. You are not an observer in the story of eternity. You are part of the unfolding message itself. Every day, with every breath, you are declaring something, either fear or faith, division or unity, despair or hope. The final call is to choose consciously what your life will declare. Will you echo the noise of the world, or will you carry the sound of eternity in your voice, your actions, your being?